Hi everyone, welcome to week 6 of our course, the week 5 quiz review. Hard to believe we're in week 6 already. Seems like we just started. So I just wanted to go over this week like we did last week. Go over some of the top questions. I'll go over the top 5. Everyone did a good job in the quiz. The average grade was 18 out of 20, but seems like the questions were a little spread out that folks missed. So just for a little education, re-education, maybe some folks guessed. That's the beauty of a multiple choice quiz. I'll just go over a few of those this week just to get some more clarity on those questions. Um, the number one question missed was most providers agree that the following method of reimbursement is most favorable. And the answers were charges minus a discount, capitation, cost, or charges. And we actually talked, someone had brought this up in the discussion boards as well, which it kind of makes me laugh that anyone had even asked providers about this, because if you ask a provider, of course they're going to want to get paid their charges because that's their highest payment amount possible. So most providers agreed that the method of reimbursement that was most favorable was charges. So charges was the answer. Anything less than charges is obviously lower than charges, so something they're not interested in. Um, so charges is the answer that for this particular question. And their charge amount is typically, as we learned throughout this chapter, it's something that's inflated, hopefully based on something related to cost at one point or another. But likely, as you learned about through this chapter, that information gets convoluted over time, and they use many different ways to create their to actually create their charges based on the facility or organization. It can be all over the place how they create charges. So obviously providers would really like to get their charge amount, but that doesn't happen very often. Next question. What does the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act of 2010, also known as the ACA, require not-for-profit hospitals to do regarding charges? So lots of answers here. Report their charges to the government on an annual basis, charge less for services to maintain tax-exempt status, allow patients to view a list of charges for services, or limit charges to patients who are eligible for assistance. Now this one is a little confusing. If people had chosen the answer, allow patients to view a list of charges for services, I may have given that to you, because they do actually, under the ACA, have to provide price transparency and provide a list of charges. It's not just for certain types of hospitals. That is a requirement under the ACA. But nobody chose that answer, so that wasn't under there. The question, the answer to the question was limit charges to patients who are eligible for assistance. And one of the requirements under the ACA, at least currently, we'll have to see what changes may come under the Trump regime. But one of the requirements currently is that not-for-profit hospitals do have to offer financial assistance programs, and that is a requirement under Medicare as well. You do have to offer financial assistance programs to needy patients based on income, etc. And therefore you're limiting your charges to them. It's typically based on income, and you charge a percentage, etc. But these are hospitals, so keep that in mind. It does not necessarily apply to physician practices. This is a hospital side issue. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out moving forward. Some states also have laws. I live in New York State. I'm currently in New York, and in New York we have specific laws that govern that as well. So how the New York state laws or the other state laws are going to compare with federal law moving forward, if the feds were to back off on what's in the ACA, will be interesting. Okay, question 3, cost shifting. So cost shifting is the practice of what? So we had four answers: charging for more costlier procedures, charging certain populations more for services, shifting costs from some payers to offset losses from another, or none of the above. So our answer was shifting costs from some payers to offset losses from others. So the practice of cost shifting is one we've talked about a few times already in the discussion boards, and it can be seen as somewhat less than ethical, but it has been done for years, unfortunately. And it is, fortunately or unfortunately, much harder to do now because back in the day, it was kind of, what do they refer to it as, robbing from Peter to pay Paul. But they would they would take kind of the lack of payment we would get maybe on the Medicaid side and kind of bump up our charges on the private payer side where we may be getting a percent of charges payment. Well, very few payers will pay us a percent of charges anymore. We pretty much have flat rate payments, such as prospective payment systems, uh, where we're getting a bundled type payment, maybe what are called APCs or fee schedules, across almost all payers now, negotiated rates across almost all payers. So the notion of being able to shift costs is not as valid as it used to be, which to me, as a compliance person, is not a bad thing because I questioned its ethical state to begin with. But we do need to make enough money to keep the doors open. So if that's what you needed to do that, then I guess I can understand the financial folks wanting to do so. But generally, cost shifting is when you will shift cost from some payers to offset losses from others, and that's what that is. And like I said, probably not as common as it used to be, mainly because you just can't simply shift a charge, can't bump up a charge for a payer when they're not paying you based on your charges, they're paying you a set rate. Next question: what two factors have led to lower charges in the healthcare industry? So our answers were managed care, advances in information technology, managed care, prospective payment system, prospective payment system advances in information technology, and prospective payment systems decreased demand for services. So any of the ones that had information technology in them, that's definitely not going to be included because if anything, those information technology, although excellent for our industry, probably one of the main reasons that we are moving forward rapidly, um, from a from a clinical standpoint, from a technological standpoint, it's bumping up our charges because it's making our industry more expensive. Um, but prospective payment systems, this is one thing that is causing charges to go down because this is causing us to be more efficient. Prospective payment systems set a flat rate for our payment, and we need to accommodate that flat rate by being more efficient in our care. And then managed care, obviously, also forcing us to be more efficient and effective in our care processes. So our answer for this question was the second one down, B, managed care and prospective payment systems, and that's what is holding lower charges in the healthcare industry. Last one, using the blank method of setting charges, providers can set charges to break even or even realize a gain. So our four options were hourly rate, surcharge, RVU, or DRG. So of these different options, our answer was RVU. And so with RVUs, it's very kind of flexible as to how we would set that, because it's going to be based on specifically how we wanted to set that RVU charge. We look at, okay, how much time do we have in it? How much work is the physician putting in? How much overhead are we putting into this particular service? And we would adjust it in that way to make sure, okay, are we breaking even on this charge? Are we actually even going to gain on this charge. So by using that RVU method of setting charges, it would either help us to break even or set a gain. And there is detail. I have there it is right there, on page 175 in our textbook, on the RVU method, and actually on all of the different methods. The hourly rate, surcharge, DRG, all the various different methods that they talk about. Um, it, the RVU method is probably the most simple method, especially obviously for physician practice settings, to be able to set those rates in a way to accommodate all of the different um, areas, work component, overhead component, and malpractice cost, and be able to set it in a way that it would show that you're breaking even, or just you're just going to break even, or you're going to actually have a gain on that service. So those are our top 5 questions this week. Any questions that you may have, please let me know. Or, please feel free to comment on here. But if it's an immediate question, I won't see this until I'm grading. So please just send me an email through the classroom or just to my regular email. And I'll see you all on the boards this week. Thanks.